stresses out a lot of people, but we are trying our best to make it less stressful or not stressful at all. So today we're talking about assessment. Let us know in the chat box if you
Yes.
have any questions, and in the comments section if you have any questions about assessment. Rabia and I will try our best to answer them.
Yes, yes. And along with that, also tell us where you're joining us from. Tell us a little bit about yourself and also about, like Nadia said, what do you know? If you have any questions about assessing learners, Nadia and I were going to talk about some of the questions that were already asked in the community and some that
Mhm.
you can ask us live as well. So, Nadia, do you have any
Yes,
questions?
about assessment. Well, tons of questions about assessment. Um, I want to know everything about it because I think it's such an important part of teaching and learning. It also helps people kind of measure and feel more confident about the level of the language that they have acquired. So I think it's very, very important to actually self assess and to be assessed. And that's why I love all the questions that we have from our different teachers from around the world. I think they cover a large portion of the topic. So, do you want
Exactly,
to start with the
exactly.
first one?
Uh, okay. We had one
Oh, we have
question
some
from the
hello
community.
from, yeah, sorry. Someone saying hello from Libya and Egypt. But yes, go ahead with with the questions.
Hi, hi. Okay. So the first question is, how can learners assess their teachers in assessment? I found this really, really interesting because a lot of times we think that assessment is the teacher's job. Teacher is going to prepare the assessment, teacher is going to administer the assessment, and learners are only going to be there to take part in the assessment. So
Yes.
this question makes it a partnership, and it's about like our topic, our course, assessing learning. So it's not about assessing learners, it's about learning how much. So a child can do that as well, and a child can help you in doing that as well. So let me throw this question to people who are here. What is one thing that learners can assess themselves? What do you think? Before Nadia and I can answer, what do you think learners can do within their capacity if they are primary learners, if they're adult learners, or secondary learners? What do you think they can assess them on themselves? Nadia, do you have any ideas on that?
Well, with assessment, as you mentioned, Rabia, I think it's very important that we take into consideration our learners as well. Perhaps try to incorporate their opinions and what they deem as, valid assessment. So, what should be assessed in a specific skill or in a specific activity? And I think I've done that with one of my classes before, where I actually asked them during a speaking activity to tell me how do they assess a good speaker? How do they think someone is a good speaker? So they're like, oh, they're clear, they're fluent, we can understand all the words. Once they named all those things, I was able to jot them down on the board. And then I was like, what if we start assessing your speaking for this activity that we're about to do based on this criteria? So this was a criteria that was student led. They were the ones who created it because that's how they assessed good speaking. And that's what we started doing later with other skills as well. So they would come up with a criteria, and then that's how I would assess them, or how we would assess the activity and the skills as well.
A
So
very
let's see
good
if you have.
point. Yes, a very good point, Nadia. And also to add to that a little bit, students, with the help of that success criteria, can self assess themselves as well. So
Mm,
you work together to create that success criteria, and then
mm.
you can ask them either to peer assess or self assess. So this way also they can assess the teacher or assess themselves also in understanding where they are. Um, uh, you wanted to read some comments, Radia?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I just want to add one thing. This
Okay.
technique that you just
Hmm.
mentioned definitely boosts the confidence of learners, and it definitely makes them
Hmm.
more daring to learn and to try and experiment with the languages. So, some comments from the Facebook. Self assessment is a vital part of formative assessment. Completely agree. We have a couple of questions from Facebook as well. So, a question is how to change this full concept from assessing of learning to assessing for learning. Well, that's an interesting question. School concept, quite the large scale. Um,
Yeah.
I
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
If you would like to, please go ahead, Nadia.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Your
Okay.
area of expertise.
You can say that. So I would say that for assessment, we cannot say that assessment for learning is good and assessment of learning is bad. And we cannot say that, we should completely shift to one. They're both important, they're both necessary for the school and the learners and for assessing learning as well. So assessment of learning, you don't need to have school's policy to help you do that. It's just within the classroom you're doing that. You're seeing where the learner is, where you need them to go, so you're checking their understanding. So it's like you don't wait till the end, till the exam, to check where the learners are and say, okay, this is where you are now and you will go to the next class or not. So assessment of learning, assessment for learning helps you within different checkpoints, and you can do that within your class. I think you can be independent in those decisions within your class, and uh, it's going to help in the overall summative assessments in any case, and the school will be happy that you're doing all of that. So anything you would like to add into that, Nadia?
I think you have covered it, but I am looking at a few of the other questions as well. I think that was very
Mhm.
comprehensive. Another question we have is from someone from Lydia. They're saying that the language skills are four skills. So, how to assess them all in our educational year here in Libya, especially with the poor equipment we have? Now, we did say we will assess all, but we never mentioned that we'd actually assess them at the same time. So it's important to take notice that sometimes we can merge skills and we can assess two skills linked together, but we also can do continuous assessment. We can work on a specific skill this week, we can work on the next skill the week after. So it's important not to overwhelm ourselves as teachers and also not to overwhelm the learners with assessment, especially if it's in Libya with the lack of equipment, assessments is usually quizzes, and it's just very, very um, clearly like shown. It's either submitted papers or different things that we do, not in a less covert way, kind of like in a less obvious way. So in Libya, I think that assessing one skill per week and then moving on to the next skill could truly work, especially with the lack of equipment that we have and the lack of technology access as well in our schools. But it's not
I
impossible.
totally agree with that.
What do you
I
think,
totally
Rabia?
agree with that. Integrated skills like assessing them, like two skills at a time, is going to help teacher and the learner both in assessing the skills. And there is one series on assessment on British Council channel that caters to how to assess them individually as well as integrated. So we won't have time to discuss all of them, but I'll share the link to that series in that comment and you can check that out. It tells you how to assess each of the skills, and hopefully it's going to help you. But integrated skills can do, assessing integrated skills can be a solution to this. Thank you, Nadia, for that.
Thank you. We have a few more questions in the chat box. Would you like to look at those? Or I also have some questions
Okay.
from the priming post. Um,
Okay.
s-
I have a question here. Can
Go
assessment be
ahead.
fun and not a terrifying experience? I would say why not? And I think it should be fun and it should not be a terrifying experience. While I was thinking about this session, I was thinking about how I used to be so scared of exams where I had to memorize things. And when it was a paper of languages where I just had to go and show what I already knew, uh, like speak or write things that I can do well, I was like, I used to enjoy those exams. And same is the case with the students also. The things that they are prepared for, they have good skills and you're assessing them on that. I think it will not be terrifying experience for them. So somebody has mentioned here about goals. There was a question statement about um,
Yeah, would you like me to
this.
read it?
Yes, if
They're
you
saying
can.
checking their work against goals, thinking about what they learned and what they need to improve.
Yes, and assessing them on what you wanted them to learn. So we are assessing learning, not the learners. So whatever they know, what you have covered in the classroom, please assess them on that. I am not a big fan of surprise tests, and they should know what they're going to cover, what's going to come in the assessment. They should have enough time to prepare, and maybe sample papers as well, what's going to come. And if you are and you already have a rubric for that, they can also see what they're supposed to do to get a proficient level. So maybe assessing them and helping them being informed about what they're being assessed on, and what do they need to produce. I think that will make it an exciting experience, because now they are responsible also for doing well. It's not just you who's responsible for them to do well.
Um, that's a great input. And I also want to add that because we are currently teaching Generation Alpha in schools, I think it's also important to incorporate technology into assessment. And there are
Yes,
so
yes,
many
yes.
tools that are free to use. You can assess speaking, you can do writing, it helps you create rubrics. So I think it's very important to do this. It even helps you differentiate the material for assessment based on different learner needs and levels as well. So bringing that into our classes is quite important as well. Even if the classes do not have the equipment that we need, I think doing this, allowing students to do this at home, using flipped classroom, bringing in technology is kind of speaking the generation's language at this point. So it's very important to incorporate that in our classes.
Yes, and if you do not have technology, you can have fun games also. You can use whiteboards, you can use small paper slips, and they can write ABC. You give options and they show the cards. So all of the elements of technology can be redesigned and adapted for a non-technology classroom as well. You just need to know your context, your learners, and the things that you have to make it more interesting. One thing I would like to say here, that we have a big influx of questions here, and our audience, if you read a question that you find interesting and that you think you have an input on, please respond to each other's questions as well. And after this live as well, we will also go and answer some of the questions. But if you have a take on any of the questions and you think you have a response, please add your response in the chat as well. Nadia.
Thank you. We have a couple of more. We're going to get one question from the primary post now. So someone is asking, well, someone asked in our post, as a teacher of English, when should I use my mother tongue in the classroom? That's an interesting question.
um, I
So,
feel that one of the important questions to ask ourselves is, when do our learners start using mother tongue in the classroom? Maybe that is the time we should allow them to use it, because maybe they're not comfortable at that moment to use English. Maybe they have more ideas in their mother language. Maybe they find it difficult at that time. So think about the moments that they are using L1, and then you let them do that. And also, it's British Council's policy also that um, we want the schools and the teachers to decide when it's good, according to the policy of the schools that you're working in, when do they want you to use the mother language in the school, or English at what times when you're teaching English. So it should not be that you are letting them speak in Elven all the time and they're not getting enough practice in English. But it's wise to do that according to the context that your learners and you are in. Nadia,
definitely.
what do you think?
So, no, I definitely agree. And some of the teachers in the comment section are actually flipping this the other way around, and they're thinking about assessing teachers now. I don't know if you saw that, Rabia, in the comments. Someone's asking, how do we assess the teacher's ability to help her improve? I think we assess teachers the same way we assess students. But that's an interesting question that we will come back to probably in the comments. So, some more comments from our teachers, Rabia. Someone is saying assessment is not all about exams every time. It's all about helping the students to improve themselves in whatever they see they are weak at. I completely agree with that. I think it is important to actually help students spot their weaknesses in order to work on them, to improve them, and to cover the gap in that area that they feel less confident about. So I think it is up to the teacher and the student in that case. As we mentioned earlier, it's a collaborative effort um, between the teacher and the learners.
Yes, and I would like to say that along with assessment, I think giving feedback is very important in the way you're giving feedback, because we're saying that assessment is not about exams, assessment is about weak areas. So how does assessing learning then help the child as well? So we are saying he can
Yeah.
do self-assessment, he can do peer assessment, we can assess learning. What's the next step after that? So yes, it's not about exams, but it's about improvement. How can we bring improvement? So whenever you're uh, designing an assessment, think about what would you do after that. So after the testing, I think evaluation is also very important, where the learners are, where you want them to be, and how you're helping them, going to help them to be where you want them to be. So I think that
Yeah.
thinking about how you're going to give feedback, how much you're going to give feedback, when you're going to give feedback, thinking about all of those questions is also very important.
Um, I agree. And I want to add to that that it's important also to teach, not to test, teach to learn,
Yes.
teach to grow as
Yes.
learners. In different parts of the world, English language is taught only to be tested at the end of the school year, but not to actually be learned as a language of usage. So I think that's also important to take into consideration and to keep in our minds as teachers as well. So,
Yes. And I
as-
saw a question about differentiating assessments, and we had one from our community member also about how can we differentiate assessment. Yes, it is how can we differentiate between different types of assessments. So again, we would say that you do it. It should not be just the type of assessment. It should be what learner is more comfortable with. So for formative assessment, you can give them multiple ways of representing what they know. So they can either uh, speak about it, they can either write about it, they can draw something, they can do a role play, they can make a poster. So, or they can, whatever they feel comfortable in showing that they know what that topic is all about. So you need to see how much they've learned about it. But if it is a summative exam, and I know in most of our schools it's the same exam, it could be different questions for different students, but it's going to be the same format. So for that, if you think that a child needs more practice, you help them get more practice in the way the exam is set, the kind of questions that can come. So you can support a child in performing well. Either it is assessment for learning, where you give them multiple ways to participate, or assessment of learning, where you can prepare them well for the exam that they have to take.
it's important to take that into consideration prior to the exams, though, and
Yes,
not
yes,
think about
yes,
it just during. All right.
yes,
So we have another, well, I think it's a similar question to earlier. How can we make assessment more enjoyable? I think, again, tapping into different technologies, using the games, getting students to actually take part into creating assessments for their classes. I think this gives a sense of community, and it allows people to feel that they own their learning and that they have a say in what they learn and how they learn and how that is being assessed. I think that makes it enjoyable, and not to forget the technology part. I don't think children and learners nowadays can learn without phones or different websites, and that's why there's a vast variety of those available online. So I think we should totally utilize those as teachers.
yes. And with that, some of the fun ways to assess could be, for instance, revision activities, backs to the board, like children can sit and you write something on the board, and the others have to ask them, give them hints, and they have to guess that what they're talking about. So this is kind of an assessment. You're revising their knowledge. Then there is another one where you put either you put flashcards on the board or you write different words on the board, and children are standing on the lines, and then they have to slap on the word, the right pronunciation, the right meaning, the right definition. So you can make it fun with different kind of recycling activities, vocab activities, grammar like tic-tac-toe. You can play with them. Anything, if you put a competition into it, you can make it fun. So just according to the level of your learners, you can make and then again, assessment is not supposed to be on a piece of paper all the time. It's just checking how much they have learned. It could be through anything. It could be again when you are assessing them, I said it once earlier also and saying it again, assess them on what they know, assess them on what they feel comfortable with. So do not surprise them, do not assess them on things that they're not even interested in, they're not going to use ever in their classrooms. You're talking about technology and Gen Alpha, Nadia, so they do not write applications anymore, they do not write letters anymore, they're into voice notes, they don't even send text messages now. So the way they do, ask them to get involved in activities in that way. It would be fun for them.
Definitely, definitely. And I think, backing that up, we have another question or more of a comment from one of our teachers on our Facebook group. Someone mentioned that they have 5 classes for 4 days a week, 80 minutes each. And they're asking, how can AI help me assess them better? I have A2 to B1 level and 10 to 14 years old, respectively. I think again, there are many websites that allow for this. So, for example, there is Diffit. Diffit is a great website that does this. It differentiates whatever material you have, and then it brings it in an interesting way. There's also there are many actually different websites. If you'd like, Rabia, I can later add them into the comment section. So each of them covers a
Please.
specific skill that we can use, and they're mostly free. I don't think you need anything except to actually register. But then, of course, there's the more evolved version that does more things. That one is paid, but the basic version that you can use is definitely available just upon email registration. So I think we'll share that in the comments.
Yes, and there are two comments. I'll read just one from the community. And
Go
they were
ahead.
like, think about what's involved in achieving the purpose of assignment using AI. They include something like write 3 question prompts. You could ask AI to find the answer to this question, then have them compare the results each prompt resulted in, which gave the best answer. What follow up questions? So if you're asking students to use AI, do it in front of you, keeping the safeguarding like tips already shared with them, not to share the phone number, location, and things like that, and then ask them to use it and then see what prompt gives them the better response. And then we, in this age and time, we, it's good to use AI. It's just like in when we were kids, we used to go to the TV and we would turn the um, uh, channels like manually. We would change the channels. Now we have a remote control to do that. So in the same way, use AI as a tool, and not something to not do your work. It's going to help you save time. It can
Definitely.
help you, yes. So you write the learning outcomes, you can get some ideas, but before sending it to the students or sharing it, please have a look at it first, because a lot of times what you get from AI is not the right question or the right level for the children as well. So it's very important to cross check whatever you get from AI.
Definitely. I completely agree. I could never trust AI completely. And it literally says it underneath it. AI can make mistakes. Um,
Yes, yes. I have such a nice question here. How can we assess students who are good in speaking but weak in writing? I think that is the case with so many of us, because I think uh, writing, we need in our curriculum, in our classes, we do not have enough time for them to
yeah,
practice writing. It's not just copying the answers, it's if you want them to write an essay or write a story. So creative process needs time. and a lot of times in our curriculum we do not have. So what I think Nadia said in the beginning, integrated skills, so maybe having them chat on some platform, if you have a Google Classroom or something like that, so maybe brief chunks of writing, so that can also give you a good glimpse of. And um, I think more than assessing students speaking and writing, it's giving them opportunities to speak and write. And when you're giving them those opportunities equally, as many for speaking as for writing, you will see that their writing would also improve. So do not think that only when they sit and they write a story or an essay, then it's writing.
Yeah,
When you are asking them to maybe pass on different, for instance, Nadia, you start writing a story and you pass the paper to me, and I write the next,
chain
like
writing.
continue the story. Yes, so this way also, so make it fun for them, make it interesting for them, collaborative for them, they will
Yeah.
improve. And then you can, while they're doing that, you can assess while they're doing that, not at the end of the year. So you help them, support them, guide them with helpful feedback and guidance also.
Um, that's brilliant. And I also think if they are such good speakers and if they enjoy speaking more than writing, then maybe you can build on that and get them to record their voice uh, via phones, or they can perhaps dictate their thoughts verbally. This will help them kind of use their good English that's spoken and put it into the written format, and then maybe uh, work on it a bit more. Work on, for example, the grammar or the structure. So I think it's important to take into consideration the things they like, the type of learner they are. So if they like speaking, utilize it to elevate the writing skills as well.
Yes. Uh, Very good point, Nadia. We have one about embarrassment, about self assessment. Some high students like to evaluate their class, not peer assessment, evaluate their classmates, but some students feel embarrassed about it. Um, Nadia, would you like to respond
No,
to
no,
it, or
you go
should I?
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that we need to have certain norms in the classroom before we start asking the students to peer assess. So if there should be that kind of respect, that kind of exposure for the students, that this is what we're supposed to do and nobody is going to embarrass the others. And a lot of times it's not the high achiever who is embarrassing, it's the other child who is worried about making mistakes. So we should not only focus on the high achievers and tell them that you need to be nice, we need to build confidence of the other learners as well, help them take feedback positively, not to take it personally. They're not saying that you did it wrong, they're just saying that your essay needs this. So maybe having that kind of talk before you start peer observation or peer assessment in the classroom, that would help setting the norms before that, raising the confidence in children, and maybe starting with self-assessment first. You give them a rubric, they see themselves, and then you maybe at a later stage ask them to do peer assessment. So maybe staging can help in that.
Yeah. I think, as you've mentioned, establishing clear classroom rules is quite important in order
Yes.
for everyone to remember that.
Yes.
I think we have time for one more, as we're almost out of time. So, a question here is, how can we improve teachers' ability to use assessment as a tool for learning rather than focusing solely on grades? Uh, Rabia, how would you like to answer that?
Yes, we had a similar question in our um, community also. Somebody asked us, has scoring killed learning and skill based opportunities alongside creativity? So that is a very, very important question. And because universities demand grades, if you want to take admission somewhere, they look for grades, they look for personal statement as well, but your grades are the like part of the criteria, and a lot of students do that. Teachers also aim to do that. Personally, I think that we need to develop the skills of our learners. I used to train for IELTS, and uh, I could never ever just ask them to, okay, now let's start practicing the uh, previous exam. I would also focus on developing their skills, developing their listening, developing their speaking, because IELTS is not a test of how well they do the exam. It is how well they're able to listen and speak. So I would focus on their skills a lot, so that when they go into the other country, it's not just the grade that they have, it's actually the skill that they have. So I think having the realization as teachers and giving that to your learners also, that passing the exam is not important, having those skills to pass the exam and do well in the real life is very important. So I think having that can help.
Thank you very much, Rabia. I think this is all the time we have for today's live. However, the comment section remains open for more questions. Rabia and I will be checking the comment section and answering all your questions, hopefully. And if you have any
Yes.
questions that are in the comment section that you feel are, you feel that you can answer yourself, please do join the conversation with the other teachers in our community.
Yes, and this is a community. It's not you responding and Nadia and I responding to you. Like respond to everyone. Like make it a discussion. Yes, yes, and
Like one big
we're going.
family.
Yes, yes. We're going to meet you on 9th next Tuesday, and we're going
Mhm.
to talk about your ideas for inclusive classrooms. So do share ideas that you have in the post that we set up for that, and we'll see you till that time. Keep on posting, keep on responding, and we have 11 courses available for you, and June is the last month for some of them. So do try to enroll before 23rd of June, so that you can receive your certificate by the end of the June for those courses. So thank you very much, Nadia. Lovely to talk, and thank you everyone for such nice questions and keeping us engaged throughout. So as Nadia said, we'll now join you in the chat. Thank you very much,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you, Rabia. Thank you, everyone. Take care.